When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
Oh, I remember it well. December 15th of last year, when Canadian airline passengers finally got the protection they deserve. Right? That's what we were told. Transport Minister Mark Garneau said at the time that finally passengers had protections that were clear, consistent, transparent, and fair. Well, now, a few months removed from that, let's find out how it's shaken out. Joining me on the line is John Lawford. He is Executive Director and General Counsel of the Public Interest Advocacy Center. Hi, John.
Hi, Les.
So, in a nutshell, now that we can complain and expect, I guess, compensation at times, what's actually happening?
Well, people are actually complaining, and they are going first to their airline, which is what you're supposed to do, and they're finding the airline is denying what looks like compensation they should be getting under the rules, and then they're turning around and complaining to the Canadian Transportation Agency, which has the next level of appeal, if you will, and they're getting swamped with complaints.
So are these airlines just figuring out, hey, you know what? A certain percentage of people, once we deny them, they'll just drop it, and this will be the most cost-effective way of doing business? Is that what's happening here?
That might be part of it. I think it's also the airlines might be pushing their interpretation of the reasons for delay to an interpretation that they like, and just seeing if people will then go off to complain to the next level. And as you say, a number of people do drop off at that thing, but it's because it costs them money, so of course they're going to interpret it as strictly as they can.
So I actually saw one crazy story, John. I don't know if you saw this one, about a couple, and they're on the same flight, and their flight gets delayed, and they both complain. One got their complaint accepted and got compensation. The other one got denied, right? Mm-hmm. So it sort of seems like, even at the airline level, it varies if you're actually going to get compensation or not, and it depends on if the person looking at the complaint is nice or not.
I think inside the airlines, they're adjusting to this new regime as well, and they may not have consistent policies and adequate people in the airline to deal with this new bulge of complaints. So I was, disappointed but not terribly surprised to see people on the same flight getting a different answer. Yeah. If you get that in your family, you should go to the next level, obviously. I hope that after this transition period, both the airlines will realize that they have to have more people or more attention paid to this, and there will be some interpretations from CTA that stop the airlines from being really aggressive in how they interpret, denials.
John, would you put this then, would you file it under growing pains?
I do file it under growing pains because the rights consumers are getting are so important, and there's going to be an adjustment period where airlines have to be told by the regulator what counts as a regular maintenance, which does not stop you from getting compensation, and what is an acute problem has arisen to your aircraft when you're trying to take off that delays you, that does not allow you to have compensation because it's something they have to fix at that time. Hopefully the interpretation from the CTA will get to the airlines and they will behave themselves going forward. Now,
the CTA, the Canadian Transport Agency, 3,000 complaints filed in 8 weeks. If you're them, do you tell them, hey, guys, get used to it. This load is not going to get any better and you need more resources?
Absolutely. And to be really frank, our group did warn the CTA that based on our experience with the telecom ombudsman and with the banking ombudsman, they probably should expect, 10 to 30,000 complaints in the first year because of the volume. People fly a lot, and that they should ramp up their intake call center and their inquiry people to be ready for that bulge. But I think they're also transitioning and getting money from the government to add people. So I guess I'm asking passengers to be patient and not to give up on their complaints, but it might take the government a while to get their act together.
We're speaking with John Lawford. He's Executive Director and General Counsel of the Public Interest Advocacy Center, and we're talking about air passenger rights and what's happened in the few months since we've had regulations in this country. John, what's going right? I mean, we focused on the massive complaints and going to the airlines and them refusing, and now people going to the second step. But is there anything that you've seen in the last few months that gives you some hope and saying, hey, some of this is working?
Well, from my perspective, it's just really gratifying to see people realizing they have these new rights and trying to vindicate them, because, Canadians are often accused of taking it when things go bad and being, the sorry culture. I'm seeing Canadian consumers being active and insisting on their rights and asking for compensation and sticking with it. That's very encouraging. I also see the regulator, the CTA, is committed to trying to make this better, and they have said they're going to launch an inquiry into this bulge to try to figure out if there's some systemic changes they can make and some guidance they can give to the airlines.
How would you want? What kind of tweaks would you want to see in this legislation? If a year from now, Mark Garneau, whoever's the transport minister, says, "Okay, we're going to relook at this," what are the tweaks you would advise?
Well, I'd advise that the minister gives some minimal internal complaints requirements to the companies. At the moment, I don't think they have any kind of requirement to have, say, a certain number of people dealing with consumer complaints inside Air Canada, any kind of timeline, any kind of standard language to say, here's why your claim was denied. You could maybe get a 2-word answer in an email. It's difficult, I understand, from some people to find the right email to contact. And I am concerned for some customers who can't use email to contact them and would rather talk to somebody on the phone, and the airline may or may not have a call center. So those are the kinds of things that perhaps Minister Garneau could put into additional regulations for internal complaints processes at the airlines.
John, I have a question that just came in while we're talking on our text line here. Maybe you can answer it. Are Canadians living in other countries able to make claims?
If they are flying into or through Canada, yes. So if you are a foreign national, you can make a claim under this regime if you've had a Canadian airline experience that doesn't live up to the regulations. But it does get more complicated when you are flying to and from Europe that also has a regime.
That's
you can't get double compensation. So you either pick the European half of the rights or the Canadian one, if you will, if you're on a transatlantic.
Which one would you pick, by the way? Who's got the better compensation plan?
Actually, to be honest, the Canadian delay one I think is a little more generous on long delays, and it's also a little easier to understand. The European one's more complicated, but for most other other ones, the European one's better.
Oh, really? Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, John, one last thing here. Looking at these complaints that have come in, obviously Air Canada has the most. They're the largest Canadian airline. They're going to have the most. But is there any figure stat that you're looking at where you're saying, oh boy, a certain company here is not doing the job?
I don't have those breakdown figures yet, and I'm looking forward to the first full report from the Canadian Transportation Agency. I wouldn't want to prejudge, but I would expect to see, as you say, if an airline has 60% of the market, they should have 60% of the complaints, and if it's higher, what's going on?
I got one other message just came in here, John, and since you're here and you're fun, let's continue here just for a second.
Okay.
I was on a flight with Sunwing, and they called a 7-hour delay, a technical delay. Do I have a chance at compensation?
Absolutely, because they also have to file reports with Transport Canada of what the actual reason was for the delay, and it's possible that if you have any information, you should put it in your complaint. Like, I think it was just routine maintenance, and give it a try. And you can go digging with Transport Canada to try to find what was reported, but it's a bit of a chore.
Yeah.
So, most of the time, if the crew announces something, sorry, Elias, you can rely on that as saying that's why I thought it was regular, just a regular delay, maintenance, not a big deal, and I don't understand why we didn't take off. But it's hard because consumers don't get a stated reason, and perhaps that's something we should add to the regulations as well.
John, hope to check in with you another time in the future and catch up on any other further developments. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you, Elias.
That's John Lawford, Executive Director, General Counsel of the Public Interest Advocacy Center.